Hell with Vince McMahon. I don't need him.
Radiation is a curious thing. No one expects what it would bring.
What led to you leaving during that short period?
Well, here's a story for you. So back when we first started, a lot of guys left PWX to start a promotion called PAW, P-A-W.
Which I only recently learned out about 2 months ago.
Which Jim referenced in his interview with you. What PAW was Ron Williams and a bunch of other guys, and his mother helped him start an organization. They left PWX. Well, Jim then started this thing where you had to sign a contract. It was like a binding contract. If you left, you had to not sit out for whatever period of time. So I was just, at the time, Zoltan and Tarantula, I would go on the road with a lot. Kenny would get me booked on shows in Ohio, West Virginia, and I was grateful for it because, I was getting paid and I was getting experience, and I was riding with two veterans. And Tarantula was working a show at the, I think it was Showtime Pizza out in Norwin for IWC. And Norm was running it at the time. It may have been Steel City still at the time. I can't remember. And I just went to watch the show. So I was sitting in the back, and T made his debut there. He got in the ring, and he got jumped and was getting beat up by two other guys. Well, Norm came up to me during this time and said, why don't you just run in there, do a run-in, just to save T to run him away. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm young. I don't know any better. So I do. And I make the save, and everybody scatters, blah, blah, blah. Well, then I got a phone call from Jim saying, well, you're no longer allowed to wrestle for PWX. And I can't remember what results came of that, but I was gone. So 6 months went by, and I called them back because I wanted to come back. I had friends here, Quinn, Mad Mike, all them guys I started training with. And, Samu was the booker at the time. So I talked with him. He said, sure, yeah, I'll bring you back, but you got to put this guy over. It's not, pay your dues, I guess. It wasn't a big deal. They put me in against Corey K. If you remember who Corey K is, he's 7 foot tall, and he's a monster. So putting him over wasn't like I was, doing the job. I was, really realistic for me to put him over. So, and then I came back, and I've been here ever since.
So, when you were let go by PWX at that time by Jim, did you have a lot of animosity, or did you understand?
I understood. I always felt that the contract thing was bullshit. And it probably was bullshit. You have to talk to Jim about how legal it really was. I kind of understood, but it wasn't a, I hate PWX thing. I was like, well, okay, I did what I did, and that's what they want to do. So be it.
So if we take away that 6 month period where you were gone, and then look at the rest of your time, 21 and a half years, you've been as loyal to PWX as anybody. During a time where, if you look at PWX's history, so many guys have left, went other places, started their own companies. What's different about you? Why have you stayed so loyal to this particular brand?
I'm really good friends with Quinn, and Quinn has run this brand probably since 2000. Had some hand in it. A lot of times during that time, I was in with booking, other things. So that's pretty much where my loyalties lie. There's not a lot of guys in wrestling that you can call, friends. You have acquaintances, but a really good friend is really hard to find in wrestling because, as you know, a lot of guys will stab you in the back as soon as you take a time off and they're looking to get in your spot. And that's understandable, but I'm not like that. So that's pretty much. If it wasn't for Quinn, I probably wouldn't have been around PWX for this many years.
If you were, so you've been a trainer here at PWX, sort of off and on over the years, correct?
Sure.
If you were going to give advice to the barrage of indie workers in Western PA, and there are quite a few of them that watch these videos, what kind of advice would you say that, like, this is something you see regularly on the independents that bothers you, or this is a style that, how can you personally, in 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, say, if we could fix this, the shows, your part of being a wrestler can be better?
honestly, I don't think it's the workers. I think it's more the promoters. I think if the promoters, and I know every promoter wants their guys, this and that, but I think if the promoters can work together, not necessarily money-wise, but work together to allow the indie workers to work different shows in the area, then everybody's show can be better. But also, as a worker, you have to be honest with the people you're working with. You know, if you're not happy with something, don't go behind their back and tell other people that you're happy with it, and then, or not happy with it, and then tell the booker another thing or tell the promoter another thing. Be upfront and honest. You know, if this is the way I feel, this is the way I feel. You know, I think you're going to get more out of that than the running around talking to this person, talking to that person, and then it gets back, then it's third person, and then it looks worse than what it is. So honesty probably would be what I would say to, you know, the indie guys. You know, be honest with who you're working for. You know, don't limit yourself to one promotion either. You know, like, you know, PWX wants guys, their own guys. These guys want their own guys. But everybody just wants to get out there and get exposure. And I get that, you know. But be honest with them, you know. That would be mine.
I think I thought a lot about this because when I ran Altoona, I would tell guys that they couldn't, if somebody else is running the show, they couldn't wrestle on the show in Altoona. And in retrospect, with the passage of time and maybe a little more wisdom, I probably wouldn't say that. I would say, that's fine, you can go and work there. People often say, well, if you're paying to see them over here, you're not going to want to pay to see them over here. Mm-hmm. But if I'm a good booker, I'm going to put that person in such a good spot, that in such a good angle, that it doesn't matter if they're wrestling over there, because what I'm doing here is going to be so much better as far as the story and the show goes. So if they want to wrestle over there, that's fine. But I don't think anybody else seems to have that mindset right now.
And I hear that a lot. You're wrestling here, why do you want to see them over there? But if you look at the crowds, if you honestly take a look at the fans who come to all the different shows, how many fans actually go to every different show?
Not that very many. Few.
Not that many that you could say, oh, they don't want to come see you. And if they're coming to that show, they're probably coming because they know you're on that show, or they don't care and they don't mind seeing that person. So I don't necessarily buy that either. You know, we'll see you there, the other thing.
We talked a little bit about training. One thing I've sort of noticed over the years, like you've had a hand in training a lot of guys and girls here in Western PA, but rarely do I hear people saying, "Yeah, I was trained by Crusher Hansen," or I hear, "Well, I was trained by Brandon Kay," or "I was trained by this person, that person." Mm-hmm. Does it bother? I mean, for me, maybe I'm wired a little different than you are, but if I had a huge hand in helping a lot of these guys and girls, and somebody else who is maybe just giving just as much help gets all the credit and you don't, like, for me personally, I would be like, what the hell? Maybe you're wired differently. Does it bother you at all?
It bothers me.
Okay.
It does bother me. A lot of those times when I was training, I did have other guys helping train. It was me and Scotty Gash at one point, mm-hmm. Me and LaRusso, me and Brandon. So, at the point where it was me and Gash, I was training by myself for a little bit, and I asked Gash to come help me. Once you get so far in your career, you can only bump so many times. So you needed somebody to help demonstrate more stuff. So, it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me. Because I know who I've trained or helped train. And some guys, will say, yeah, he was there. Some guys won't mention it at all. So it bothered me, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I know who those guys are. I see how they're doing, or how I've helped them in their training and to get to where they are now. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, as Coach Kyle would say, or
Sure.
Coach Tomlin would say, rather. I can't lose sleep over it. Those guys know who helped them train, and
You mentioned previously you had a blood clot before you started wrestling in your leg, which had to be terrifying. Even worse, I would think anyway, after a match, you had a heart attack. Now, I've never been in that position, so I don't know. But I think having a heart attack and then saying, I'm going to come back to wrestling would be a terrifying thought. Did you ever have, well, I mean, when you had the heart attack and you were laying in a hospital, were you ever like, I'm done, I'm not wrestling anymore? Or were you like, man, I can't wait to get better so I can get back out there and do it again?
I said, I can't wait to get back out there again. It's funny because you mentioned the heart attack. So back in 2013, I had a heart attack in March of 2013. Leading up to that, I was having different issues. I was training at the time. Me and LaRusso were training, and anytime I would exert myself and get a little, get the heart rate going, I would start to get these pains through my jaw. And I'd sit down, my heart rate would go down, I'd feel better. But it happened every time. I'd go to the gym, I'd get on the treadmill, I'd get these pains. I'd get off the treadmill and I'd go do whatever else. And in the back of my head, I knew exactly what was wrong with me. I had a feeling I had, some blockage in my heart, and I was afraid I was going to have a heart attack, but I was also more afraid to go to the hospital. So I can't remember, it was a March of 2013 in this building, the new WrestlePlex. I was wrestling Troy Lords, and I came back up in the locker room after the match, and I was in so much pain, and I couldn't breathe, and I'm like, there's something wrong with me. But I wasn't going to the hospital. I'm not going to the hospital. Went home, was fine Sunday, was fine Monday. I got to work on Tuesday morning, and out of the blue, just for no reason, it started happening, and my coworkers made me go to the hospital. So I got to the hospital. They ran all kind of blood work. Everything's fine. You're good. I wake up the next morning because they had to keep you for observation, and there's a guy sitting in the foot of my bed in a chair, and it was a cardiologist. And I woke up, and he said to me, Jeff, I said, yeah. He goes, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I said, oh, nice to meet you. He goes, you had a heart attack. I'm like, am I going to die? He's like, no, you're not going to die, but we're gonna do a cath to see what's going on in there. I said, okay. And then my next question was, am I going to be able to wrestle anymore? He says, I don't know what that means. He said, but we'll talk about it after we get all the tests done. So the next day I went in, I had the cath done. I had a 99% blockage in one of my arteries. They put a stent in, they opened it up. Got done the next day, I was getting ready to be released from the hospital, and I said to him, I said, can I go back to wrestling? When can I go start wrestling? He says, well, you have your own blood thinners, you can't wrestle. He said, give me 6 months and we'll go from there. But that happened on a Tuesday. The following training session on Wednesday, I was down in the building, standing in the ring, walking through the guys, doing all that stuff, and I was here every day after that, or every training session after that, until I was able to come back in August of that year.
So no apprehension, you were ready?
No, I was ready. I wasn't going to let that. I wasn't ready to go yet. I wasn't ready to be done yet.
Yeah.
I was determined. That's not my swan song. I'm not going out like that. That's not going to happen. If I can get back in, I'm going to get back in. I'm going to keep doing this.
Okay. So this is the part where I think most people sort of look forward to. We'll see how it goes for you. I know you're one of these guys that's always super nice and you don't like to say anything bad about anybody, but so we'll see. We'll see if you have any pent-up aggression left in you. So
okay.
This is called word association.
All right.
Let's start with one you mentioned briefly, Boomer Payne.
Boomer was a great partner. We together we did a gimmick called Armageddon. I don't know if you know what Armageddon was. Mm-hmm. We were these two masked guys. We wore hockey jerseys and shorts. We had black and gold masks. I think they're black and gold if I remember right. And our gimmick back then was we did every finisher that was going on in the WWE at that point. So we did the what's up, we did all that stuff. And we'd go outside the ring, we'd take pictures, we'd take fans' cameras, we'd take pictures with them. And the gimmick was over. The crowd loved it. We instead of doing Mr. Sacco, we did Mr. Caco. So we put a condom on, and the whole thing.
Okay.
It's kind of gross, right?
Yeah.
But it fed in.
Definitely
with
a different time, that's for sure.
Right, sure. We did the hoe train. We did every gimmick, that was a finisher or some kind of signature for a guy. We would do it as Armageddon, and we would wrestle as Armageddon, and then that was in PWL. We didn't even go over PWL, but that's okay. And then we'd go PWX, we'd be Crusher Hansen, Boomer Pain, and for a while no one really knew. I don't know, I think they probably knew. And then they kind of figured it out, the fans kind of figured it out. But so, yeah, Boomer was a great guy.
Okay, well, you brought it up. Let's talk about we'll get back into this word association in a minute. What was your take on the PWX, PWL situation, and what was your involvement in?
Well, the PWL obviously started out as just a breeding ground for the young guys who were being trained at the time. Quinn came up with the idea, I'm pretty sure it was Quinn, to say, let's give these guys an opportunity to wrestle in front of people, because they're not going to be on the main show yet. They're about ready, but they're not there. So we set up a Saturday afternoon where I don't even know if we charged people to come, but we told all the workers, all the wrestlers to bring family, bring friends to watch the show. And my involvement at the time was helping Quinn do some booking, and we needed referees. So I would come out and I did some refereeing. But it wasn't like a structured thing, because I came out in a tank top refereeing. But and this will lead into something else. We can get into this too, maybe. So during that PWL me refereeing, I would go for count 1, 2, and if they kick out, I go 2, and the fans would then chant 2. So that started getting over. So that there led into me becoming the enforcing official. From there, that just evolved, and I came up with the idea of refereeing my own match thing. But the PWX, PWL was great for them young guys. The problem was the young guys started to outshine the main show, which is then why they created the 2 different shows, because I think Jim saw that there was an opportunity to make some money. So we then started putting PWL and bringing some other guys in, young guys like the Hentais and stuff like that, for that show, and keeping the veterans on the PWX show. So we'd run one Saturday, next Saturday, one Saturday. So in the building there was 4 shows going on a month, and I would work, that's where the Armageddon began. So we'd work PWL there, and then we'd work PWX as something else. But then that's another story for another day. But then that kind of blew up on PWX, I think, because of the popularity of PWL. They started outdrawing PWX, and I don't think PWX management was really too keen on that.
In retrospect, do you think they should have just stayed and became PWL at that point? Or kept 2 brands going?
I think it began to get a little too hard to get the 2 brands, because PWX kept cherry picking guys off of that brand to that brand because they were still in charge. PWL was still more or less, an extension. So I don't know. I think it turned out the way it was probably going to turn out. It's kind of a little hard to run 4 shows in the building with the crowd that we normally get. It's not. It's a little tough for these people to come 4 times a month. So
if we'll get back to this word association in just a minute, but you brought it up, your gimmick, the enforcing official, right. Crusher Hansen. So if somebody had never seen this gimmick, how would you explain it to them?
I would say it's a lunatic referee who's gone rogue. Because what I do is I wrestle the match and I referee the match at the same time. It's kind of comical, and that's what I was going for with it, a little more comical. But it's harder for a guy to work because it's harder to understand. But I think it's pretty entertaining. And I'm surprised that it's never gone further than that anywhere else than here. I can remember back then, the Ohio Valley guys used to come in, Les Thatcher's guys, like Cody Hawk and the Paperboy and Shark Boy and all that, and they loved it. They'd work me. They loved the gimmick. They'd go back to Les and they'd tell him about it, and they'd come back to me and say, "Oh, Les hates it. He thinks it's the worst thing in the whole world." And I get it. He's old school, so he wouldn't like it, But there's guys like Chris Hero. I worked a bunch of times. One show I worked him, and Mark Madden was there, and the whole match he couldn't keep a straight face. So Madden, he really likes the gimmick, and he said to Chris afterwards, he goes, "You got to keep straight face. You can't go off character." He said, "It's just too hard. It's just too funny."
It is a fun gimmick. I think anybody that's never seen it should really make a point to come and see it once, because when you're given adequate time to be that character, get 10 or 12 minutes, I think it's
right.
one of the funnest things around. I think it's my only complaint about the gimmick would be is like it's definitely not a true heel, because you can't. It's hard to boo that gimmick because it's so fun.
Right. The most I can do out of it is cheat.
Yeah.
But a lot of fans don't care about you cheating anyways, because if I'm cheating, it's probably something comical way I'm cheating.
Right.
But I've disqualified myself in matches. I've counted myself out. And the whole thing is when you have to beat me, you have to count my hand 3 times.
Right.
As the to win. But yeah, you're right. I have a lot of fun with that. And I've done that for a long time.
Let's jump back into the Ward Association.
Okay.
You mentioned him earlier, Lord Zoltan.
I love Lord Zoltan. He helped me out a whole lot in the beginning. I know Hank doesn't really.
Were you surprised by that?
I was surprised by that. No, I'd never heard that. And Hank never had a bad word to say about anybody. When I listened to that, I was shocked.
Yeah.
He said he ripped guys off. Kenny would rip guys off. I don't know if he ever ripped me off or not. I would hope in my heart that he didn't. But even if he did, I still got paid pretty well for a guy first 3 years in the business, and running with them guys, and him and T Ranch being who they were at the time, me coming in on these shows, I was like a step above everybody else. So, you know what I mean? I'd go in there and they'd be like, oh my God, he's with them, so he must be. But just the experience of getting out there in a row with him is great, and I feel really bad for what he has going on right now, and I wish him all the best. But yeah, he was one of the biggest influences in my beginning with as far as getting out there traveling and learning, what happens on the road stays on the road type stuff.
Sure. How about T Ranchula?